Welcome to episode 3 of Vision and Voice. Today we have Joe Durek. Joe is a Vietnam veteran. Joe, we want to thank you for your service.
Good.
He's going to share his story with us today. Joe worked for Stars and Stripe. He was a reporter and a dear old friend of mine. We did have a pop-in visitor that you'll see later on a podcast, his partner, Lou Lenteni, and we go way back. But Joe, we wanted to have you here today to share your experience in Vietnam. And first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me here.
You're very welcome. Little open disclosure. I've known Joe for 30 years. I can't believe it's been 30 years.
That seems so long.
I know.
We're still good looking.
We get it from you, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, I have some questions I'm going to ask you, and
Sure.
I'm going to start with Joe. Where are you from?
Originally Brooklyn, New York.
No accent. You have no Brooklyn accent, or did you have an accent?
Well, I did, but I worked on that.
Can you do a little Brooklyn accent for us?
I forgot it. Real seriously.
I love it. I didn't know you were from Brooklyn, by the way.
Brooklyn, New York.
So I know your parents is it Elizabeth and Joseph?
Joseph, that's correct.
Joseph Durek. And so you're Joseph the second.
I'm junior and he was senior.
Senior. And do you have any brothers and sisters?
A brother named Ronald. He's a twin brother.
Twin brother. Okay. And he's the oldest?
I'm 27 minutes older.
Well, let me write that down. 27 minutes. I knew the answer to that question. 27 minutes. Makes a difference.
It does. I ran the show.
I love it. That does not surprise me. Well, that's great. And so you lived in Brooklyn, and now just to kind of fast forward, I know in the 60s it's very volatile, and you served in 69 and 70 in Vietnam.
That's correct.
So, my brothers were just a little too old to have a draft number, but could you explain that to us and tell us how you got drafted, how you maybe were in college and it took a while to get drafted? Tell us about that time, because the current generation doesn't know about being drafted, frankly.
It seemed to go pretty quick when I got drafted, because I really wasn't going to school then. I wasn't in a college yet, so I didn't have a lot of good qualities, meaning that type.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I got drafted, and my dad was also drafted in the service in World War II. So I just took the exception, went to basic training, spent a little more time because I wasn't very good at training.
Okay.
And then after that is when I was sent into Georgia, then eventually Vietnam.
Where were you stationed in Georgia? Is that your boot camp?
Yes.
What town?
What was the town in that? It's been so long ago, but I think it was Augusta, which is out in the middle of nowhere.
It is, well, Augusta National, but did they film, is Band of Brothers, is that something they were using since World War II? Because Band of Brothers was also, I think, in Georgia too, right?
Yes.
Boot camp probably was.
But Georgia's a great state.
Yes, beautiful state.
It is.
So I know before you got drafted, you were in college, and then you were studying to become a Roman a priest?
A Roman Catholic priest.
Oh, can we hear that story a little bit?
Well, I thought I would be a priest because at that age and that background, everybody wants to be a priest at one time or another. Some of them make it and some of them don't. I have the record for the shortest stay in a Roman Catholic monastery in the history of the Catholic Church. That's 2,000 years of history.
That's a very interesting story. How was that? A 6 month, 3 month, 2 year?
6 months? No.
Oh,
2 years? No.
Okay.
It was more, seriously, it was more like about 56 days. They let you go quick.
I understand. Now, you were doing that for many reasons, religious reasons. And then once you got out, you were drafted?
Yes.
Got it. So once you were drafted, how did it feel to get drafted? Was it scary? Were you afraid? What was the mood of the country when you were first drafted?
Then it was very difficult because we got drafted then. You most likely went to a war zone because there was so much war then. And then who wants to be in the military? I mean, under those conditions.
Mm-hmm. Were you, so it was 1969, you were saying the Tet Offensive was in 1968.
That's
so
right.
That was a really big battle, if I recall.
Bad.
President who was the president when you were drafted?
I'm trying to think.
Wasn't Richard Nixon, maybe was it Lyndon Johnson?
It probably was. I wasn't that pleased with him because when I was getting when he was there, I'm getting drafted. We would, and they would have a real bond.
Oh, got it. Now, Lyndon Johnson was Democrat, correct?
Yes, he was a Democrat.
And Richard Nixon was a Republican. So you're drafted. How do you get over to Vietnam? Do you take a boat, ship?
They take over on a plane.
Okay.
First, I served 15 months in a regular base, and then all of a sudden, I thought, well, I'm not going to get over there because I only had 8 months left in
Where was
service.
your base?
It was in Georgia.
Oh, so Augusta.
Right. Yeah.
Did you play golf?
No,
What
I,
did you, was it beautiful? I mean,
it was beautiful. The people were real nice. It was a very good accommodations for you. And I said, well, this is going well. And then all of a sudden, when I had that 7 months left, it didn't keep going well. And all of a sudden, I get the order to go to Vietnam. For 7 months, they don't normally do that. That's a short period.
so you had a 2 year, you were drafted for 2 years,
Two
correct?
years, right?
And so you're 7 months left. Then they send you to Vietnam.
They sent me to Vietnam.
Did you upset your commanding officer?
I don't think so. It's one
That's
of
really
those.
more of a joke, but
No, I
yeah.
know, but I may have. I did after I was sent over there.
Oh, well,
When
there
I
you go.
got there, everybody heard a lot about him,
Oh, I understand.
you know,
I understand.
but I'm over there for 5,000 miles,
So you go from Augusta, you're 7 months left.
right?
You think, okay, I'm going to finish my service out here in Georgia. This is great. Then they send you over to Vietnam.
That's right.
I'm sure your mother wasn't happy. What did your family think?
My mother wasn't happy, and my dad, being a former military person, was encouraging me because he served in World War II.
What was he in the European theater or the
European theater, my
okay.
dad was.
Army also?
Army also.
Was he a paratrooper or
No, he was infantry.
infantry?
Yeah.
Were you considered infantry also?
No, when I went over there, I was doing like a work writing and things like that in the States. And then when I went over there, I automatically became a combat correspondent.
Okay.
That's what they call it.
So were you going to school to be a reporter originally?
No.
How did you become a combat correspondent?
I wrote a couple of things, and by luck, they look good.
And so you got drafted, they saw what you wrote and
Right.
like, we're going to make you a reporter.
Yeah, then I spent about a year beforehand in the States. And then I figured I wasn't going to get sent anywhere because I was up at the end. And then they sent me over to Vietnam. And then when I got there is when they said, you're a reporter.
Well, there you go.
And then I'm all over the country doing stories. It's a pretty fun experience,
The so Lyndon Johnson's president.
right?
You fly over, you get from Augusta, Georgia, you fly into
No, it would be no, it was lower because it was Hanoi was north. And
okay.
that's where we bad. I forgot the city, the capital of the South, but I forgot it now.
Okay. It was Saigon.
Saigon, that's right.
Saigon,
Saigon, yes.
which is now Ho Chi Minh City,
Yeah.
right? Now, have you been there since you have you ever been back to Vietnam?
No,
I hear amazing things.
it's a beautiful place now. It's well controlled.
Do you remember? Now, I'm a little younger, but I
Yeah.
remember, like, I mean, from Forrest Gump, from Platoon. Um, when you went over there, was it what you expected? Were you in a city? Was it called in country?
What was things I was based in Saigon, but as a reporter, I traveled anywhere in Vietnam, all over Vietnam, doing the stories. So I could be by myself almost all the time. But I was actually based in Saigon.
And you shared, if I recall, you had roommates that became close friends, right?
That's correct.
Were you in like an apartment complex or what?
It was like a complex where they had like a room that there was like four people in, and then went down the hallway and had shared bathrooms, showers, things like that.
All just American guys from the States.
American.
Did you work with any, was it who were allies in Vietnam?
Well, you had the British were there,
Okay.
and they had a good number of
Was it a
them.
NATO
It's a
operation?
NATO project.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's so everybody part of NATO, but the British people were the highest amount of people. That were
Wow. I
there.
did not, I really didn't know that. So I thought it was just an American.
No,
So
they were good people.
if you had to guess how many British servicemen were there?
It seemed like a couple of thousand to me. Anyway,
Wow. So decent amount.
it was good, and they were very friendly, and they helped out, and
Were they good in combat?
yeah, they were very very good.
Efficient.
Yes,
Yes, efficient. Redcoats.
yeah.
The so how long until when you first went there, they situated you, they make you a reporter. How long before what was it called when you went out to see combat or report on it? Is that in country or
Oh, yes, it was like within the first 2 or 3 weeks. That's
really?
how quick it is. And then I spent 15 months there without coming home.
You only had 15 months, so you only had 7 months. How did you end up saying 15 months?
To my mom's chagrin, I extended myself.
Uh-oh.
You know how moms are,
Yes.
and I was done. I could have went home and everyone was happy, and I extended for I think it was like 8 months
What,
until my tour de duty.
why would you extend it? I thought everyone wanted to get out of Vietnam alive, but you extended it.
I liked going out into the field, and there were a lot of cute girls. I'm not being stupid, really.
I
The
understand.
Vietnamese people are so nice.
Very nice. So you had a girlfriend over there.
Yeah,
Did you keep in touch with her when you came back or
no,
okay. Well,
I couldn't find her.
uh,
Well, actually, what happened was mom said, "Don't make any more phone calls. Don't make any more letters.
got it.
You're done in Vietnam."
Got it.
She was polite though, but it was meaningful.
I understand. Well, that's awesome. I'm
Yeah,
glad that I did not know either.
yeah,
So it was relatively serious.
yes.
What was that would you say maybe the love of your life or one of them?
It was the first one.
Wow, your
'Cause I was
first
so young then.
how old were you?
I think it was 22.
Oh, you definitely so it was your first love.
Yeah,
Wow, Joe, when I've spoken to you really 30 years ago, 25 years ago, you've always said to me Vietnam was one of the best experiences of your life, and I think I just put it all together because it was exciting. You were writing articles. Now, where were you published? But before you answer that,
sure.
but you also found your first love.
Yes,
It's all coming together for me now.
that's what happened.
Wow, that what a
So
great.
why rush home? You have this girl there. You like to write. You got good accommodations. I
Oh
mean,
yes, sorry, mom. It's always a girl.
yeah, exactly.
That's true. Well, that's awesome. I did not know that. That explains a lot to me. Now, getting back to being a reporter,
Sure.
so when do you remember the first article you wrote?
The first article I wrote was about a lot more people coming into the country. That's when it was building up.
Oh, was that the
America,
buildup?
that was the buildup. And
Uh,
so I did that story, which was good.
how many troops at the peak of the Vietnam War? Do you remember how many troops? I'm going to look it up. I was just curious.
I thought it was in the low 50s.
50. That's a lot.
I
And
yeah, for some reason I remember that number,
well,
but that'll be more accurate than me.
let me pull this up real
Yeah,
quick. So you're there during the buildup. It's the year after the Tet Offensive, and
right.
for those of you who don't know what that is, could you explain in short form what the Tet Offensive was and what it meant to our military that was
It
there?
was probably the beginning of the worst battles that started over there. And it was battles, and a lot of the soldiers were not really necessarily as well trained because a lot of them just got drafted and sent over there. And they were trained over there, but they were trained over a lot of
Wow.
pressure.
We
Because
trained
people,
draftees in Vietnam.
yeah, yeah, well, they had the basic training one time, but then over there, as far as using the
Oh,
rifle and everything,
wow.
it didn't have the significant. And then you're under fire and everything else. So it's a hard time. Vietnamese is a beautiful country, and you're under fire. It's a difficult time.
Um, so do you recall your first time seeing combat?
I was a reporter then, and I came over and I became a combat correspondent. So you're out in the field all the time. So I would say for the first week, I'm already out there in the field. Now, I never shot because I didn't carry a weapon, but
Oh,
because if you're doing what I was doing, you don't normally carry a weapon.
but you did have a weapon, but you just never.
Well, you have people with you
Okay.
that have weapons, but you're so busy trying to write and things like that.
I can't even imagine. That'd be a stressful environment. I can barely write here at this desk. I can imagine you over there and you're worried about getting killed.
Right.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh,
I just pulled this up. The
sure.
peak level of Vietnam War was around 543,000 troops, which occurred in April of 1969.
69.
So, Joe, the year is 1969. The country, would you say, is in some turmoil? How tumultuous was 1969?
It was very difficult because there's a lot of battles in the United States. There's a lot of riots. people all over the place trying to kill people and trying to steal things. And so it was rough.
In Vietnam, or in
I-
you mean in
In
America,
the
the
United
U.S.?
States was
Okay.
bad. Yeah.
When was it 1969, 1970? The Democratic National Convention was in Chicago. Weren't
That
there
is correct.
riots at that?
Yes, it was bad.
And that's when the country was just done with the Vietnam War.
Right.
Was it Robert McNamara?
Yes, he was the Secretary of Defense then.
Got it. No, I hear that name and I don't get warm and fuzzies. Like I know he was not a well liked.
He was not well liked.
Okay.
That's all I remember about him was what I just told you.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Um, so let's go back. So you're in Saigon.
Saigon.
So can you share with us whatever you are comfortable sharing, some of your combat experiences as a reporter? You're reporting on combat in country, correct?
Right. That's
Could you
good.
share that with us?
Yeah, I was fortunate where I didn't have a lot of people shooting at me,
Hmm.
but I was able to go to all countries. I'm sorry, cities within the country,
Yep.
and it was a great experience. I got to fly all types of different helicopters, a fixed wing, C-130, C-123s. So it was just a fun experience. I think it was 21, 22 the most. So that's an exciting time in your life, period,
Yes.
let alone at that age. And everybody was very good, and it's a beautiful country, Vietnam.
Really.
With the mountains and the trees and things like that. And the people were nice.
Even during the war, I mean, even during that time, the people they're good people.
Well, if you came from South Vietnam, you were a little bit different than North.
There you go. That would make sense.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
North is a rough group.
Got it. We're the enemy at that time.
Exactly.
Um, so you're there, you fly into country. You had mentioned you would interview people when they were wounded. They're behind the fight, so to speak.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, how were they? I mean, were they wounded really badly, partially? How did that work?
There was a couple of them that not only whether it was bad, they ended up, going to heaven.
Got it. Wow.
Because I mean, you got 55,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
I think when we were, it's 58,000 killed in action,
That's right, 58. That's right. Yeah.
300,000 wounded.
That's huge.
Now, I don't even know how to unpack that.
Yeah, it's
That's just
difficult.
that's a lot. Well, thank you for your service. The on top of the 58,000 killed in action, 300,000 wounded, and that could be any levels of a wound. I mean, they were pretty bad. You had spoke about was it Agent Orange or different things that were sprayed. Tell us a little bit more.
Agent Orange was as very bad disorder because it would spray, and then you end up having a lot of rashes. It could actually kill you if it happened. If it happened.
The it would help if I started the timer. So Agent Orange. Now, were you ever sprayed with it?
No,
No,
I was very fortunate.
really. So they would spray it right on the troops.
Exactly.
Really?
It was bad. I'm very fortunate I didn't because
And
it discolors your skin and boils and things of that nature.
and you would see that on troops,
Yes,
knowing that it was Agent Orange.
right.
And they thought at the time, they're like, oh, it's just fine. Some chemicals, scrub it off.
Yes, they thought it before they knew how bad it was. It was they were indifferent to it. But then when they see the scars and
Wow.
the pain, it was like a fire. I mean, I luckily didn't have any of that, but it was a rough time.
I'll look up how many people died of Agent
Yeah,
Orange, but it was probably pretty substantial.
I would think.
Now, did you ever see napalm in use?
One time, but it was more like in a distance. I wasn't around it, meaning that it impacted me. Well, you can kind of see it coming up the flume and the
Really?
whiteness. Yeah, but it was far enough away.
What is the famous line from Apocalypse Now?
What is it?
I know
Do
it.
you know it?
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
That's true.
How sad is that? I mean, I'm sure that probably is a true quote for some soldiers.
Yeah.
Um, it's such a
That was part of their lives too. So when they had something like that, that was an important part of their lives.
yeah. You know, I was talking about some of your articles. Now you wrote for Stars and Stripes.
Right?
Is that the full name of the newspaper?
That is his full name.
Okay. And where did the Stars and Stripes get distributed? All over the world?
It was all over the world.
Daily? It was a daily paper?
Uh, we were doing mostly weekly because it was
Okay.
pretty expensive to do that.
Got it. And then, so when was the first time you were published in like a big paper? You said the Chicago Times or the New York Post. Did that happen early in your career?
Maybe into about the fourth month, only because you have to learn so much to do,
Okay.
and how to go ahead and do the article, and then you have to wait for them to come over. Meaning, they have people there that you end up talking to. You wouldn't make a phone call to them; they would be coming through their normal time frame. The people who
Okay.
work for those places.
Do you remember the article you first got in the New York Post or the Chicago Tribune? Do you remember what it was about?
Let me see. Those artists were just basically writing about what people are doing, the impact they have, and what it may be the future. You know,
Okay.
because it changed so much. The battles and everything like that.
Mm,
A lot of the military people would get kind of they were bothered by it, so then they got into trouble. It's a whole cycle, and I understand that because you're getting shot at on a
yeah.
regular basis, you're not going to be happy. I was
No.
fortunate because I was out there, but I never had those kind of really bad moments.
You ever almost, I know you flew in Hueys or
Hueys, bird dogs, or the little two-seat fixed wing with one engine.
really?
Yeah.
That
Eh,
would be to go out to wherever?
Yeah, they were just flying around, and I'm sorry, they were just looking to see if people are all around there, what the enemy is doing. Then you have the helicopter, a little small helicopter that had two seats.
How many of those planes, what were they called again? The single engine? How many of those were shot down? Were they easy targets?
They were easy to talk because they weren't flying. It was like a Cessna,
Little
and
Piper Cub
yeah,
Cessna?
yeah, and they don't fly very fast to begin with,
No.
so they're just flying along. They're easy targets.
Did they got shot down
They got
sometimes?
shot down, and
Yeah.
people were.